Welcome back to the Angry Man Podcast with Jason and Greg. So it's roughly 2:05 in the morning. Just completed the Terence Crawford versus Israil Madrimov fight. And as I told most of you guys, it was going to be a more difficult fight than some of you imagined. I think a lot of people felt there was going to be a foregone conclusion that Terence Crawford was going to defeat Israil Madrimov. I think Terence Crawford found out that Israil Madrimov was a little bit more difficult than maybe he had even expected. Madrimov, big, strong, and looked more athletic in the ring than we've seen him in the past, to be quite honest with you. Madrimov showed exactly what I thought he was going to be. Big, strong, relatively athletic. The problem that we saw with him, it was two problems that we saw with him in previous fights. Trying to go down to the body and leaving himself open. Israil Madrimov actually improved in that area. As a matter of fact, Israil Madrimov has improved in every single fight I've seen of his since I've had the opportunity to watch him fight. I think Madrimov probably needed 5 to 10 more fights before he took on someone like Terence Crawford. But it is what it is. You got to take the opportunity when the opportunity is presented to you. So when I think about Crawford, let's talk about it. Now, Crawford, I saw in the Discord, I saw in the live stream that people were saying Crawford looked a little bit slower than what we've seen in the past. I saw a lot of people talking about, Bud's 37 now. Bud looks more stationary. There were a lot of those comments in the comment section. And here's what I'm going to say to that. I told you guys in the past, when you were talking about Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford, and you were simply taking the version of Terence Crawford that you saw against Errol Spence, picking him up and dropping him at 168 pounds and thought that made sense, it never did. Number one, I've told you guys on multiple occasions, a fighter is never as good as their best performance and never as bad as their worst. What we saw from Terence Crawford versus Errol Spence, yeah, I mean, he did his thing, but that don't mean that Crawford can do that to every fighter, right? He's not as good as that performance that you saw. I mean, and I think this performance brought some of the Terence Crawford fans back down to earth. I mean, he's still the best fighter on the planet. I want to state that for the record. Terence Crawford is still the best fighter on the planet. However, the Errol Spence fight was not indicative of what future fights might look like at 154 pounds and specifically and especially 168 pounds. Okay? Crawford with a little bit more weight on him looked a little slower. If you put him at 168 pounds and you put more weight on him, he's going to look even slower. That is what I was trying to explain to you all. Now, Terence was a little bit hesitant in regards to Israil Madrimov and his power. He made sure that he didn't throw too much and open himself up too much, but there were still opportunities to land on Terence Crawford in that fight. The problem was Israil Madrimov, when he thinks heat is coming back, he kind of goes up into a ball. And he had no shot of beating Terence Crawford unless he punched with him. And that's what he failed to do in the fight. I think you would see a different fight with Canelo Alvarez, number one. And I know a lot of people feel that Canelo Alvarez doesn't look like the same fighter that he was a few years ago. But Canelo still has those skills. He's going to be bigger. He's going to be able to take those shots from Terence Crawford. And if he's not as concerned, like we've seen from past fighters, in regards to Terence Crawford and his counterpunching ability, he's going to have himself an opportunity to counter Terence Crawford as well. And that could create hesitancy in Terence Crawford. I don't know why there's been so many people that thought that this was a foregone conclusion that Terence Crawford would defeat Canelo Alvarez. I think we really have to pump the brakes, and reassess what that fight might look like if it were to happen. Now, I'll give Crawford kudos. He definitely got his offense off, but he certainly wasn't as offensive as he was against Errol Spence. And as you keep moving up, similar to what we saw with Floyd Mayweather, remember what we saw with Floyd. As Floyd moved up, Floyd was a puncher at 30. He was a puncher at 35. But once he went to 40 and 47 and 54, we started seeing Floyd dial the offense down and dial the defense up. Dial the offense down and dial the defense up. But what was special about Floyd is Floyd had the ability to go from defense to offense seamlessly. And I personally feel, and this is not a knock to Terence Crawford, this is a sincere statement. I think Terence Crawford's best defense is actually his offense. Because people are so concerned about the counter punches that are coming back if you're not careful that they don't punch as much. I think Terence Crawford's counterpunching ability limited Israil Madrimov tonight to the extent that he didn't want to throw as much as required in order to win the fight. And so that was to his detriment. But as Terence Crawford moves up more and more, if I was Crawford, I would stay at 54. I really would. I really would, because I think as he moves up, he's gonna see that, you know, these guys are more powerful. And you're gonna find some guys that maybe are not as concerned about your counterpunching. And if they're not as concerned about your counterpunching, I think that is a part of Terence Crawford's defense. Now, I'm not saying that Terence Crawford can't be defensive in other ways, but I just don't see him being like a Floyd where he can go seamlessly from defense to offense. And I think that will limit him, because what makes Terence Crawford special is his ability to get off, counterpunch, and limit you through his counterpunching. I think that's what makes him special. And I think it will be limited at 168. I truly do. And again, some people are going to be in the comment section telling me, you hate Bud. I don't hate Bud. I don't hate Bud at all. And as I told you guys in the past, I will be advocating for the fight, the Terence Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez fight, in the event that this particular fight with Israil Madrimov does pretty good numbers. Because as I've told you before, I didn't believe Terence Crawford should get the opportunity to skip the line in terms of David Benavidez. However, one thing that we know in the sport of boxing is if you can put seats or cheeks in seats, then, you know, all those rules are out the window. And we want to see the biggest fights. We want to see fights that become events. And so Terence Crawford had an event tonight. He had Eminem at the fight. I know Turkey Al-Sheikh said the event was sold out. Again, this isn't hate, but if you look at when they pan over the stadium, it did not look full. Now, maybe we're going to get different numbers. Maybe we're going to get, you know, numbers that will confirm that it was full, and that would be great. And we'll hear pay-per-view numbers. And if the fight, they said the greatest card in North American history, is not. And so I put a number out there of like it needs to do 1 million buys if it's the greatest card in North American history. I don't believe it was the greatest card in North American history. I think if this card sold 500,000 pay-per-view buys, I would consider it a huge success for Terence Crawford. I don't know what the financials are, but I would consider it a huge success, and I would advocate for the fight if that's the case. So it'll be interesting. We'll see what happens over the next few weeks. Turkey Al-Sheikh said if Canelo Alvarez is a smart man, he's going to accept his offer. I don't think that that's the way to make a fight with Canelo Alvarez, as I've mentioned in previous videos. We'll see if Canelo Alvarez is receptive to that. So you guys let me know what you think in the comment section about Terence Crawford. He's past Israil Madrimov. Is Canelo Alvarez the next fight? What is that fight going to look like? Do you still feel the same way you did when you saw him against Errol, now that you've seen him against Israil Madrimov, a guy that was bigger and more limited in terms of his skills and his experiences? How might he look against Canelo Alvarez? Let me know what you think in the comment section. Don't forget to hate, like, comment, and subscribe. This is the Angry Man Podcast, AM Sports Media, and I am out.